He mocked her scarred face in front of everyone, but she came back unrecognizable. Danica Martinez stood in the marble-floored lobby of Pinnacle Industries, her hand instinctively moving to touch the raised scar that ran from her left temple down to her jaw. The accident 3 years ago had changed everything, not just her appearance, but her entire life. Today, she was here for what would be her final day as a junior accountant, though no one knew it yet. Well, look who decided to show her face today, came the familiar, cutting voice of Jackson Sterling, the company's golden boy and heir to the Sterling fortune. His designer suit probably cost more than Danica made in 3 months. I was just telling the investors about our diverse workforce. Before we continue, have you subscribed yet? Hit that button for more interesting stories and mark the register by commenting which country you're watching from. Today's shout-out goes to Marie McDaniel. Thank you for watching and commenting on my stories back to back. It means a lot to me. Now back to the story of the day. The group of potential investors chuckled uncomfortably as Jackson's eyes deliberately lingered on Danica's scarred face. She felt the familiar burn of humiliation rising in her chest, but she kept walking toward the elevator. Jackson, warned Leonardo Vasquez, the head of HR, his voice barely above a whisper. That's enough. But Jackson was just getting started. He had an audience now. Nancy Chen from marketing, Thomas Wright from legal, and Emily Rodriguez from public relations all stood nearby, pretending to review documents while clearly listening to every word. You know, we really should consider having our front-facing employees meet certain aesthetic standards. First impressions matter in business, don't you think? He turned to the investors with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We can't have clients feeling uncomfortable. The elevator doors opened and Danica stepped inside without a word. As the doors began to close, she heard Jackson's final blow. Some people just don't know when they don't belong. The words hit her like physical blows, but Danica didn't cry. She'd stopped crying about Jackson Sterling's cruelty months ago. Instead, she pulled out her phone and made a call that would change everything. Hello, Grandmother Elena? It's time. That afternoon, Danica cleaned out her desk while her coworkers pretended not to stare. Nancy approached hesitantly, her usually confident demeanor subdued. Danica, I want you to know that what Jackson said today, it wasn't right. Some of us tried to speak up, but you didn't, Danica finished gently. And that's okay. I understand. Nancy's face flushed with shame. Where will you go? Danica smiled for the first time all day. I'm going home. What nobody at Pinnacle Industries knew was that Danica Martinez wasn't just a junior accountant from a humble background. Her grandmother, Elena Vasquez Martinez, was one of the most successful real estate moguls in South America, with a portfolio spanning 3 countries and assets worth over $200 million. When Danica was 18, her grandmother had made her a proposition. Come work for me, mija. Learn the family business. But if you choose to make your own way first, I'll respect that. Just know that when you're ready, everything I've built will be yours. Danica chose independence. She wanted to prove herself on her own terms, to build something from nothing. The car accident that left her scarred had happened just 2 months into her job at Pinnacle Industries. She could have quit then, could have run home to her grandmother's empire. Instead, she stayed, enduring 3 years of subtle discrimination and outright cruelty, learning everything she could about business, about people, and about herself. Now, as she packed the last of her personal items into a small box, Danica felt something she hadn't experienced in years: anticipation. The flight to Buenos Aires took 14 hours. Danica spent most of it reading business reports and property assessments that her grandmother's assistant had sent her. Elena Martinez didn't believe in easing people into responsibility. If Danica was ready to join the family business, she would hit the ground running. Elena met her at the airport personally, something that turned heads throughout the terminal. At 72, Elena Martinez commanded respect wherever she went. Her silver hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, her posture perfect despite her age, and her dark eyes missed nothing. "Mi nieta," she said warmly, embracing Danica. "You look tired." "I'm ready, abuela," I replied in Spanish. "I'm finally ready." Elena studied her granddaughter's face, not the scar, but her eyes. "Yes," she said with satisfaction, "now you are." The next 6 months were a whirlwind of intensive training. Danica learned about international property law, investment strategies, and the intricate network of businesses her grandmother had built over 50 years. She discovered that the Martinez empire wasn't just about real estate. They owned hotels, restaurants, shipping companies, and even a small but exclusive fashion house. More importantly, Elena taught her about power, how to wield it, when to show it, and when to keep it hidden. "Power without wisdom is dangerous," Elena would say during their morning walks through the estate's gardens. "But wisdom without power is useless. You have spent 3 years gaining wisdom, mija. Now let me teach you about power." Danica threw herself into every lesson. She learned 4 languages fluently, studied international markets, and traveled to every property in the Martinez portfolio. She met with architects in Milan, negotiated with investors in Tokyo, and closed deals in New York that would have made her former colleagues' heads spin. But perhaps most importantly, she learned about herself. Away from the toxic environment at Pinnacle Industries, away from Jackson's cruel words and the pitying glances of her coworkers, Danica began to remember who she had been before the accident: confident, brilliant, and determined. She also began to take care of herself in ways she hadn't in years. She worked with the best physical therapists to address the chronic pain that had lingered since her accident. She started eating well, exercising regularly, and sleeping 8 hours a night. She began wearing clothes that fit properly and made her feel confident rather than trying to hide in oversized sweaters and dark colors. Most surprisingly, she decided to embrace her scar rather than hide it. A renowned plastic surgeon in Sao Paulo had offered to minimize it significantly, but after weeks of consideration, Danica declined. "This scar is part of my story. It reminds me of what I survived, what I learned, and how strong I am. I won't hide it anymore." Elena smiled with pride. "Now you sound like a Martinez." By the end of her 6th month in South America, Danica had transformed in ways that went beyond the physical. She carried herself differently, spoke with authority, and made decisions with the confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was and what she was worth. She was ready to go back. Pinnacle Industries was struggling. She knew this from the financial reports she'd been quietly monitoring, but seeing the nearly empty parking lot on a Tuesday morning confirmed just how bad things had gotten. The company that once had seemed so impressive to her now looked shabby and desperate. She walked into the lobby wearing a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, her dark hair styled in a sleek bob that showed off her scar like a badge of honor. Her posture was straight, her stride confident, and her smile serene. The young woman who had been bullied out of this building 6 months ago was gone, replaced by someone entirely new. The receptionist, a new hire who didn't recognize her, looked up with the kind of eager attention that successful people received everywhere they went. "Good morning," Danica said, in a voice that carried the authority of someone accustomed to being listened to. "I'm here to see Mr. Sterling. Please tell him that Danica Martinez is here to discuss a business proposition." She didn't need to wait long. Word traveled fast in a struggling company when someone with obvious wealth and power showed up unannounced. Within minutes, Leonardo Vasquez appeared in the lobby, his face a mask of confusion and something that might have been recognition. "Danica?" he asked uncertainly. "Is that
"Is that really you?" She smiled, and it was a smile that could have launched 1,000 business deals. "Hello, Leonardo. You look well." Before he could respond, the elevator opened and Jackson Sterling stepped out, flanked by Nancy, Thomas, and Emily. They were clearly heading to another one of their crisis management meetings, trying to figure out how to save their failing company. Jackson's eyes swept over Danica dismissively at first, the way they always had. Then they snapped back, widening with shock and something that might have been fear. "That's impossible," he breathed. "Hello, Jackson," Danica said calmly. "I believe we have some business to discuss." The conference room had never felt smaller. Jackson sat at the head of the table, his usual position of power, but for the first time in his life, he looked uncomfortable there. Nancy, Thomas, Emily, and Leonardo filled the other seats, all of them stealing glances at Danica as if they couldn't quite believe what they were seeing. "I'll be direct," Danica began, her voice steady and professional. "Pinnacle Industries is failing. Your largest client dropped you last month, your second largest is threatening to leave, and your overhead costs are eating up what little profit you have left. You need an investor, and you need one quickly." Jackson's face reddened. "I don't know what game you're playing, but the Martinez Group is prepared to invest $20 million in Pinnacle Industries. In exchange, we would acquire a controlling interest in the company and implement new management strategies." The room fell silent. $20 million was more than enough to save Pinnacle Industries and make it profitable again. "The Martinez Group?" Thomas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Martinez Group? The real estate empire?" Danica nodded. "Elena Martinez is my grandmother. I am her heir and the current head of North American operations." Emily's mouth dropped open. "But you worked in accounting. You were—" "I was learning," Danica said simply. "My grandmother believes in understanding business from the ground up. I spent 3 years here studying not just the company's operations, but its culture, its leadership, and its values." She turned her gaze to Jackson, who had gone very pale. "I learned quite a bit about how people reveal their true character when they think there are no consequences for their actions." "Now wait just a minute," Jackson started, his voice rising. "If you think you can just waltz in here and—" "Mr. Sterling," Danica interrupted, her voice cutting through his bluster like ice. "You are hardly in a position to make demands. Your company is 3 months away from bankruptcy. Your family's reputation in the business community is in shambles following the harassment lawsuit filed by your former assistant, and your investors have lost confidence in your leadership abilities." She pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table to him. "These are the preliminary terms of our investment offer. You'll note that the offer is contingent on a complete restructuring of management, beginning with your removal as CEO." The silence in the room was deafening. Nancy, Thomas, Emily, and Leonardo exchanged glances, hope beginning to dawn in their eyes. Leonardo looked like he was trying not to smile. Jackson's hands shook as he read the terms. "You can't do this," he said finally. "This is my company. My family built this business." "Your family built a company. You ran it into the ground. The choice is simple. Accept our investment and step down, or watch Pinnacle Industries collapse completely within the next quarter." She stood up, smoothing down her suit jacket. "You have 48 hours to consider the offer. After that, we'll be pursuing other investment opportunities." As she moved toward the door, Jackson found his voice one last time. "This is about revenge, isn't it? You're doing this because of what I said about your face." Danica paused at the door and turned back to him. When she spoke, her voice was gentle, almost pitying. "Jackson, You seem to think that what you said to me was important enough to shape my major business decisions. That's fascinating, because I honestly had forgotten about it until just now. She looked around the room at the faces of her former colleagues. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because this is a good business opportunity. The fact that it also removes a toxic leader who creates hostile work environments is just a bonus. With that, she walked out, leaving behind a room of people who were finally seeing her clearly for the first time. The story of Ganika's transformation spread through the business community like wildfire. Within weeks, she was featured on the cover of 3 major business magazines, profiled as one of the rising stars of international business, and praised for her innovative approach to corporate restructuring. Pinnacle Industries accepted the Martinez Group's investment offer. Jackson Sterling was removed as CEO and quietly shuffled off to a minor position in his family's other business interests. Under new management, with Danica serving as chairman of the board, the company began to turn around almost immediately. Nancy was promoted to chief marketing officer. Thomas became the new general counsel. Emily took over as vice president of communications, and Leonardo was elevated to chief human resources officer with a mandate to completely overhaul the company's culture. I want every employee to feel valued and respected. No one should ever have to endure what I went through here, Danica told him during their first official meeting as colleagues rather than former co-workers. Leonardo nodded solemnly. I should have done more to stop it. I'm sorry. You're doing more now. That's what matters. The physical changes to the Pinnacle Industries offices were dramatic. The cold marble and sterile white walls were replaced with warm wood tones in comfortable seating areas. Natural light was maximized, plants were added throughout the space, and employee break rooms were upgraded with quality coffee, healthy snacks, and comfortable furniture. But the cultural changes were even more significant. Harassment and discrimination policies were not just rewritten, but actively enforced. Diversity and inclusion training became mandatory for all employees, especially those in leadership positions. A confidential reporting system was established so that employees could raise concerns without fear of retaliation. Within 6 months, employee satisfaction scores had doubled, and turnover had dropped to its lowest level in company history. Danica split her time between the restored Pinnacle Industries and the broader Martinez Group operations. She kept an office at Pinnacle, not because she needed to micromanage, but because she wanted to remain connected to the company and its employees. One afternoon, she was reviewing quarterly reports when Nancy knocked on her door. "Do you have a minute?" Nancy asked, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Of course, come in." Nancy sat down across from Danica's desk, fidgeting with her hands. "I wanted to apologize for not standing up to Jackson when he said those things to you." Danica set down her papers and gave Nancy her full attention. "Thank you for saying that. I was scared of losing my job, scared of becoming a target myself, but that's no excuse. What he did to you was wrong, and I should have spoken up." "Fear is understandable," Danica said gently, "but you're speaking up now. You're part of building something better here. That matters." Nancy's eyes filled with tears. "How did you do it? How did you come back from all of that and become this?" Danica considered the question carefully. "I stopped believing that other people's opinions of me were more important than my own opinion of myself. I stopped trying to make myself smaller so that cruel people would feel more comfortable. And I learned that my worth isn't determined by my appearance or by whether someone else finds me acceptable." She touched her scar unconsciously. "This mark on my face used to make me feel ashamed. Now it reminds me every day that I survived something difficult and came out stronger. It's part of my story, but it's not the whole story." Nancy wiped her eyes. "Thank you for giving us all a second chance." "Thank you for taking it." That evening, Danica stood on the balcony of her new penthouse apartment, looking out over the city skyline. Her phone buzzed with a text from her grandmother. "Proud of you, mija. Your grandfather would be proud too." Danica smiled and typed back, "I learned from the best." As she put her phone away, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. 6 months ago, she had been a junior accountant who let cruel people make her feel invisible. Tonight, she was the chairman of the board of a thriving company, the heir to a business empire, and most importantly, a woman who knew exactly who she was and what she was worth. The scar on her face caught the light from the city below, but instead of trying to hide it, Danica turned her face toward the light and smiled. She had not just survived Jackson Sterling's cruelty, she had transformed it into strength. She had not just overcome the accident that scarred her, she had learned to wear that scar like a crown. And tomorrow, she would continue building something beautiful, something kind, something that proved that power used wisely could heal instead of harm. As she headed inside to prepare for another day of changing the world, one business decision at a time, Danica Martinez felt something she had never experienced before. Complete and total peace with exactly who she was. The woman who had once hidden in oversized sweaters and avoided mirrors was gone forever. In her place stood someone unrecognizable to those who had once dismissed her, but perfectly recognizable to herself. She was exactly who she was always meant to be. If you enjoyed this story of transformation and resilience, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a moment that completely changed how you saw yourself? Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are never as small as someone else tries to make you feel.